Welcome to the Feel Better, Be Better show. Today, Kate and Nevada will answer your questions and introduce new topics designed to help feel better and be better. These are raw conversations, but they will make a difference.
Really.
All right, so let's see here. Today we're going to talk about solving the NCAA rules of play, right?
I thought you were totally going to say world hunger.
No. Whatever. I'm too hungry right now. Can't solve my own hunger. How am I going to solve world hunger? No, we're going into team hopping all the way, youth to college.
Yep.
Oh, pros. We kind of hit pros too.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think we cover it all.
Covered all.
All right. So, super educational this time. All right, so all that leads us into what we see on the pro level.
Pro level.
Which, I mean, I think is where it ultimately kind of started. I mean, it's been kind of a newer thing now. Free agency we talk about. See teams switching. I mean, I think the funny part is we're sticking in basketball. The NBA, they constantly have these things where it's like, well, that guy will never get traded because his contract's an albatross and nobody will want to deal with it. Next week he gets traded.
Yeah.
I mean, they always find a way out of that stuff. But
what's the big thing? So-and-so's contract's coming up. Where's he going to go next?
Well, I mean, that's NFL huge right there on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you always have MLB. I mean, they call it the hot stove, because I mean that's where players are signing and going here and there. And I mean, free agency opens. Same thing with basketball. They all have like a huge rush to it. But I think the big thing for me on that one though is that always seemed kind of weird to me, like all of that stuff. And the one that has always bothered me has been drafting of players. There's something weird to me about that. You mean me as a kid that now, so if I got it correct with the way, at least when I grew up, it was like we played, grade school, then we played, high school, and then I would go play college. And then after all those years of developing to the point where I can actually make money for this, now if somebody drafts me, I have to play for them. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how many years do I got now? I mean, like the NFL, I mean, it's a 5-year program. It's a 5-year thing that they are locked into unless they hold out or something like that. So, I mean, you've got guys that have been playing, they're not going to get a chance to actually ever negotiate for themselves until they're like 27, 28 years old.
Yeah.
And by then in the NFL, I mean, it's the reason why it's called NFL is because it's not for long. Their contract, their player days could be done.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand on the draft side that we're going to basically say you have to go play for that team.
Yeah. Yeah. With that too, I mean, it's interesting the divide in players that you kind of see, as in one, if you're drafted, you don't get a choice on picking the atmosphere you want to play in. Or even like the team you kind of grew up around and maybe you're a huge fan of, and now you're just all of a sudden the rival or whatever.
Or coach you want to play with, or teammates you want to play with, or city you want to be in. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Yes. So on top of that, that's a huge thing. But then on the other side, like you see some of these players that have been around for a little bit who are taking pay cuts to stay with a good group of people to win a Super Bowl potentially, because that matters more to them than going and making more money and trading other places. And then some people just want to trade to go get more money.
Yep.
So it's an interesting divide that you see even at the professional level of what the priorities are on that.
Sure. No, there's a ton. And that's the one in particular you're thinking about is Brady. I mean, he constantly would take less money, a little more guaranteed, maybe spread over more years, so that way they could be able to sign other guys so he could have the stars around him to be able to compete. But I mean, his was a whole different scenario. I mean, he made more money in endorsement deals outside of football than he did in football. And all of those combined didn't come close to what his wife earned. So
that's true.
He was in a very interesting situation.
See it a lot of times more with like your quarterbacks or your bigger name players anyway, and would get some of those more endorsement deals. But
yeah, but I mean,
it's just interesting that there are some who are like, no, I'm about the money. I'm just going to go where I have it. And then some that are like, no, my goal is to win a ring.
Well, I think it was Mahomes here, this last one. He just restructured his deal so they could be able to sign some of the guys to get his guys back.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's starting to realize that, you know what, money's important, yes, but at the same side, I got to have the players around me that I want around me to be able to win and do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then you start getting the guys that want to win. There's plenty of players that have been in their careers and they just want to win. They've made their money. They're good to go. But I think the biggest one we see, though, more than anything that bothers me is one, not really having much choice, which I know, and it's funny because we started this with not how bad the transfer portal is making college look. That one is probably one of the most free markets that we have right now. And I'm kind of actually, in a way, I'm kind of for it. I just think they need to find a way to structure it correctly. It's too wild right now.
Yeah.
But like I said, in the NFL, I mean, you have a situation now where, I mean, you could be locked in for like 5 years of your prime career, and you didn't get to negotiate the team, you didn't negotiate the coach, the owner, the city. I mean, you basically are stuck with it. Now that one kind of bothers me a little bit. You'd like to see them open that up a little bit more. Now I understand why they did it. I mean, they had number one draft picks. They were signed into $40 million contracts, and they never even played. And I mean, it's like, yeah, but that team chose to do that.
Yeah, or you have some teams that are really good and some teams that are really bad, and the really bad teams can never. I get the process of like being able to get good players for those bad teams to where they can kind of maybe even things out.
Yeah, the NFL's pretty good about turning over. You say that, but I mean, there's certain organizations that find ways to stay at the top on a regular basis.
Always. So I don't think that fixes it, but I understand the argument of why you would do a draft to where teams that maybe don't have as much money or history winning or different coaches have a shot at having decent players to compete. Like, I get it. I get why.
Well, I mean, you see it in every sport. I mean, you really do. I mean, NBA, I mean, they have Lakers usually, I mean, they're not good every year, but they usually find a way to get back.
Yeah.
The Knicks always find a way to be horrible. I mean, and, there's certain other teams that have just never done anything. There's other teams that kind of pop up for a while and then kind of pull back. Major League Baseball, I mean, let's face it, I mean, we all have had the Yankees up there for a very, very long time. They haven't done much recently, but now you have teams like the Dodgers. Again, they were really big for a long time, and they kind of got down. Now they're back in, but I mean, you see kind of the same organizations, and that can't just be draft stuff. They brought in draft viewers. It's organizational. It's from the top down. But I think the biggest one I'm going to go into is how detrimental it can be by not getting a family that's around you that you can trust. And I mean, you see some of those players that do bounce around pretty bad. They always seem to have issues. They can't seem to get on the right group. They seem to have money troubles. They seem to get all kinds of other things. You see that on a regular basis. And it's funny, you don't hear that kind of things from players that have a good core where they've been around. So as I sit back, as we're coaching youth, and I start seeing that mentality being put in when you're 12 years old, 14 years old, of like, well, we just got to get you on a better team. All of a sudden you're developing that no connection. You're developing that I'm not going to build with the people we have. I'm not going to make my teammates better. You're basically in that thing of like, nope, we need to get the right pitcher here and this one here and whatever, and we'll go win. And then you're playing with people you don't even like. You may not know the coach very well.
Or even know.
Yeah.
I mean, you might like them fine down the road, but you'd never know because you're not there long enough.
Or even better, I think we had one girl the other day that was talking about a team they went and played on and like didn't even remember the pitcher's name. And you're just like, hey, that's what you're developing. And that's what you'll see. Then they'll get in, if they happen to be good enough, they'll get in the high school level, and maybe they'll trade high schools. They'll rent a house in a different school district so they can go be with the coach that they want to be, which is, and of course, a choice you can do, but then that coach won't treat them well, so they'll go to a different school. And then, but they're still good. Skills are good enough, so they get on a college team and they start bouncing around the NIL pool. Still good, get to the pro level, and they're bouncing all around. Never really develop a community, really never develop a way to deal with people. Hit life afterwards, and they're working wherever the heck for the rest of their life. And you sit back and you're just like, yeah, if they would have done better at this, they might have been able to, have better connections and do a better career. And you just start laughing. You're like, oh, I saw that when they were 12.
Yeah.
And I mean, then you got to ask yourself, was it a bad deal, or did they put themselves in a bad situation all the way from that youth group? And again, as we've talked about for other people, I'm not saying any of the players we've talked about before on our team that we've had connection with will end up that way. I hope they work out great.
Yeah.
I hope everything works awesome for them. And I know me and you, we will still maintain that connection. If they want to come work, we'll help them out. But I mean, it's.
But again, there's the right way and the right reasons to move to different teams, and then there's the wrong reasons, and we've seen some of both in our careers coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not a blanket statement for everybody, but when you see certain players that are struggling with it consistently,
mm-hmm.
it's a pattern that's developed for a reason. Like,
yep. Well, and I think of it too. I mean, we kind of talked about this. I can guarantee you, if I was 12 years old and I wanted to go to a different team, I would have had to talk to that coach. I would have had, not my dad, not my mom, I would have had to talk to that coach.
mm-hmm.
That would have been part of the deal. But I mean, that was the thing that my dad did. I mean, he wanted to instill that I had ownership and responsibility for my actions and my choices.
Yeah. My parents did that. When I transferred to competitive, they went and talked to the coach about things I could do for more playing time once. And after that, they're like, the conversation was fine. The coach was fine. You know, we got some pointers and stuff like that. But it was like the light bulb clicked on of like, this is not going to do any good if we're having to have that conversation for you.
No.
So the same type of thing of like, no, you have to, if you're having a problem, you have to own it. Now, at a certain point, yes, a parent needs to step in. But
oh yeah,
as far as like needing expectations from your coach and why you might not be playing and different stuff like that, like that's your responsibility as a player, especially as you start getting older.
Well, there's a huge difference between, as a parent, being supportive of your kid and helping them lead to be able to be independent and take control of their own stuff. And there's a whole other thing of being detrimental by not ever having them take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And then we've progressed that all the way through the system.
Mm-hmm.
The
ones that kill me even more is that's one thing if a parent wants to come talk to me and their kid's with them and they're having that conversation, like, still don't love it as much. I would rather talk to the kid about it, but at least like I understand that they're bringing them into like, how do we have this conversation? The ones that kill me is when kid comes but stays way over here while parent has conversation with coach, and you're like, your kid can't even be up here to hear what I want to say back. Like, I mean,
you say that, but I mean, I think I've seen more where like the kid isn't anywhere around.
Yeah.
Like mom or dad is just coming and taking care of that whole conversation, and you're just like, is this what the kid wants or what you want?
Yeah.
And I think that's, I don't know. I mean, maybe you have more stuff on that one. I kind of wanted to play because I wanted to play and I wanted to, you know, be the good player and stuff like that. But I see more kids now that it almost seems more like that's what mom and dad wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was the kid, but I also didn't ever need to really, I wasn't necessarily good about having those conversations with my coach, but I also worked my butt off so my work ethic spoke for me, and then they couldn't not put me somewhere.
Yeah.
So I took the roundabout way to do it.
Yeah.
Versus just not trying and being like, oh, my coach just doesn't like me, I'm just going to go to this other team over here.
Well, I can understand with kids, and we've coached them for a long time. I mean, you can really, if you want to, you can really push a kid to do what you want them to do until they get to a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
And then it is good luck. If you're pushing, they're definitely going the other direction.
Yeah.
And we're getting a lot of girls that are getting that age right now, and we're not really having as many problems as other people do. But we kind of make them make their own decision. Not saying their parents do that, but I mean, we do. And so I find it very interesting, though, how many kids at that age become so defiant. But I mean, how much of their life have they been basically dictated to? I know when I was a kid, I definitely felt that way. Mm-hmm. And I definitely did what I wanted to do when I got to a certain age. And I'm probably still doing it now. But no, never. But anyway, I mean, it's interesting. What are you teaching that kid as you continue to press that?
Yeah.
And if you don't let them go take care responsibility of that, what is going to happen later on?
Yeah. Well, and interesting too, I mean, from the coach's side of things, when you do have a player out there who is more on like that defiant side, coming out the hard authority and like, no, you're doing this, whether you're a parent or a coach or whoever, does not work. But there are plenty of ways that you can
in the short term,
set the boundaries and steer them a direction.
Sure.
And it might be a direction you want, or it might be if you don't want to go the direction I want, you're going to go this direction and probably end up somewhere else where I don't have to deal with you. But
Well,
we've seen there's plenty of ways to take care of that.
We've seen coaches, we've seen parents do this. I mean, you really can. I mean, you get a 10, 12, 11, 12-year-old, you can browbeat them, you can push them. They'll probably do what you want to say. You can bribe them with ice cream or candy or something, or basically say they're going to get in trouble or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. We've seen plenty of coaches that'll yell, get hopping mad, threaten to sit them and kick them off the team. I mean, it happens. You can get them to do what you want to do, but where do the players end up? I mean, it's not their choice. They're not wanting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just only so far that's going to go. So it's a real short-term solution, a long-term loss on that one, in my opinion. There are some people that it might work out for. I don't know. We've got a couple kids that were very, very closed in. Aren't anymore, but I mean, they were. We gave them an option, but who knows? Maybe their parents were really pushing them on the back end. I don't know.
I don't know. With those ones, though, it seemed like they chose to open up within what we were doing more so than a parent being out there pushing them. Because usually when their parents out there on the side, it usually doesn't go super well.
All right, so we can talk about this forever, but I think we can go ahead and just call it a night.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. Kate and Nevada hope you've enjoyed this show and found it useful and empowering. If you have any questions or comments, please contact them at Knetics.com. That's KNETICX.com. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And please write a review of the show. Kate and Nevada appreciate hearing the feedback, and they welcome your reviews, and your word of mouth will help others learn how to feel better and be better.